Let's move now to slide 17, which is about man training. Man training. This strategy helps our learners communicate their wants and needs using the form of communication that works best for them. It's actually based on B.F. Skinner's Verbal Behavior Framework, 1957. Man training is very common among individuals with developmental delays and autism, and it's also an important part of functional communication training, or FCT. Through this, we're helping our learners not just talk, but communicate meaningfully. So here's how man training works. It mainly focuses on practicing communication intentionally. During the session, the therapist controls access to the learner's desired items, like their favorite toy or snack, to create opportunities for the learner to make a request, or what we call mand. This way, the learner learns that communicating helps them get what they want. Example of man training. An example of man training would be if a learner were sitting at the table and wanting to eat crackers as a snack. The behavioral therapist would maintain control of the crackers to create opportunities for the learner to mand. When the learner is ready to eat the next cracker, the therapist would wait to see if the learner can mand independently, and if not, the therapist would prompt the learner to mand for the cracker before providing the learner with the cracker. Once the learner mands, the therapist will immediately provide the learner with their reinforcer, which will be what the learner requested. Functional communication training, or FCT, is a strategy used to teach individuals how to communicate in ways that are developmentally appropriate. Let's look at this example. Imagine a child who often throws toys whenever they want attention. Without FCT, the child throws the toys, and the caregiver might respond by saying, "Stop throwing toys." And this actually gives the child attention to the negative behavior. With FCT, the caregiver instead teaches the child a new, appropriate way to communicate, like saying "play with me" or using a picture card. When the child uses this new communication method, the caregiver immediately plays with them. As a result, throwing toys no longer gets attention, but using communication does. So overall, FCT helps the child learn that positive communication is a more effective way to get what they want. Now let's look at how a man session is typically structured. First, you'll want to start with an activity or an item the learner really enjoys, something motivating. Then, make sure you maintain control of the item so that you can create opportunities for the learner to communicate. Next, begin by giving a few items freely while labeling them. For example, saying cracker or car, without requiring the learner to mand yet. After a few of those freebies, start requiring the learner to mand or request before getting the item. Continue mixing freebies with mand opportunities, and remember to always label the item before handing it over, even if the learner already knows the word. Keep each activity short, around 5 minutes, to prevent the learner from losing interest and to encourage variety in their communication. Once the learner loses interest or 5 minutes have passed, you can switch to another activity and repeat the same process. Finally, remember that manding doesn't just happen during structured sessions. It should be encouraged throughout the day, ideally several short sessions per hour to support generalization. Mand session error correction. When it comes to error correction during mand sessions, we follow what we call the 1, 2, 3 process. So, here's how it works. If the learner makes an error, first, we give a prompt. If the error happens again, we prompt a second time. Then, on the third try, we aim for an independent response, especially if the learner has been following our prompts. Throughout this process, we use prompt fading, meaning we gradually reduce the level of help we provide. And after that, we apply differential reinforcement, rewarding the correct, independent responses to strengthen the desired behavior. Let's look at an example of how this 1, 2, 3 error correction process works in a mand session. The teacher holds out a toy animal for the learner to mand for it, but the learner doesn't respond or maybe says the wrong word. So the teacher gives the first prompt, holding out the toy and saying, "animal." The learner repeats, "animal." Next, the teacher provides a slightly faded prompt, maybe just saying "anima," and letting the learner finish the word, "animal." Finally, the teacher offers the item again, but this time without any prompt. The learner independently says, animal. That's a simple demonstration of how we use prompting and fading to help the learner reach independent communication. Here are some important tips to remember when running a manned session. First, always engage with the learner's interests. This helps keep them motivated and focused. Second, make sure to label items according to their manning goal. For example, if you're working on expanding language, you might model words like ball, word ball, or I want ball. Third, don't forget to mix in freebies, meaning give some items without requiring a mand. This keeps the activity fun and prevents frustration. Now, when we talk about the target number of mands per minute, it depends on the learner's language level. For learners with little or no language, aim for about 1 man per minute. For learners with some language, aim for 2 per minute. And for those who are more advanced, you can go for 3 or more per minute. These guidelines are especially helpful for learners who are still acquiring language, usually younger children or those with delayed language development. Questions.